Excerpt from the Third Journal of Henry Abernathy, Special Agent of the Assembly Research Division, Protection Detail, Western Kairul, 1/29/1952. Review of the bubbling shimmer in the highlands continues at a pace only a dehydrated field of corn would find swift or engaging, but at least the local fauna of Kairul offers some spectacle. About a furlong from the tower, an Uktan brought down a strange drake. Dr. Melnick said Chimerans call them wedgeheads, but they're probably descended from dinosaurs our counterparts back on Earth call Pachycephalosauruses. A right cottonmouth of a name, if you ask me. After feeding on the drake, some rumbling out in the nearby trees made the Uktan get all twitchy. A great beast charged out of the woods. Umber brown legs were so long and sturdy I mistook them for a tree themselves until it started moving. It had dark spots on a tawny hide like a giraffe, but a form much more like that of an elephant, although half-starved. Dr. Melnick later reassured me that they're just built lanky like that. She called it a Koga, or deinotheres, distant cousin of elephants. Now, mind you, most beasts with at least half a brain will run away from an Uktan, not toward it. Apparently this beast indeed had half a brain compared to the olifants we met up north. Anyway, it charged the Uktan without hesitation. Carnosaur sidestepped upon approach. Although it evaded the brunt of the charge, the Koga scored a jab with its weird downward curved tusks. Carnosaurs don't bleed much, so the fact that any crimson decorated its tusks at all meant that it was a deep strike. Uktan was limping a bit, but it was still quick enough to hop out and bite the Koga's back. I've seen their saber-sized talons pierce drake hide with ease, but it struggled to penetrate the armored beast as it began to spin about. Pretty quick I could tell it was holding on not to reposition, but just so he wouldn't fly off. Eventually the Uktan managed to disengage and stagger off. Koga gave chase. Even with his imp, the Uktan managed to get away. Don't think that Koga was trying too hard. He'd run faster in his initial charge. Maybe he just got tired. God knows I've been there. Eventually, he went back to browsing, ignoring the wedgehead corpse. Later on that day, other scavengers had their fill. Uktan didn't return. Dr. Melnick said it probably didn't die. Carnosaurs are tough, but they're also rather clever. He probably didn't want to risk another round of the deinotheres. After an half beaten like that, can't say I blame him.
Kaimere is a distant planet. It is defined by waves of life brought from Earth and set free to evolve independently in this new context. The indigenous life of the planet, swarms of microbes called magic by the people who live there, are what harvest Earth organisms and make copies on Kaimere. As the asteroid which concluded the Mesozoic never struck Kaimere, dinosaurs remain the dominant terrestrial megafauna.
Deinotheres first came to Kaimere 12 million years ago. Their success was swift and abundant. With long legs making for a highly efficient stride compared to the more derived proboscideans, they thrived in the scattered woodlands common throughout Nekar, where more familiar taxa had to hide in closed forests, brave grasslands, or endure sparse highlands to avoid competition with the more dominant titanosaurs. The mosaic and open forests that deinotheres preferred spread throughout most of Nikar, and they were able to continue north and island hop to Kairul, the vast eastern continent. As Nikar became more arid and mosaic forests shifted either to Titan gardens or became open prairie, deinotheres on this continent went extinct. In Kairul, however, they thrived. The known world of Kaimere is often regarded as an ecosystem defined by intense competition. With a one-way continental biotic interchange every million years or so, a natural equilibrium is difficult to obtain. No species can become complacent, and the most successful are those who have specialized to a narrow region and niche to dominate above all others, or generalists able to eke out a living as a jack of all trades. To the east of the known world is the largest continent of the planet by a considerable margin, called Kairul. While the known world is a region of intense competition in terms of biodiversity, Kairul is perceived to be more competitive regarding organism size. While there are, of course, plenty of micro and mesofauna, the largest organisms of a given clade call the vast and verdant biomes of Kairul home. The spread of housey grass to Nikar brought many of these giants with them, such as the great calicothere glanos, the uktan, and the largest terrestrial animal of the known world, the modotan. It was here, back in this land of giants, that deinotheres thrived. They were far more cursorial or efficient in travel than other proboscideans. A surprisingly lean build meant that they could afford to invest in thicker armor and dermal hide than bulkier proboscideans, especially those needing enormous guts to process grass could not afford to be armored without risk of overheating. While other proboscideans increased their brain size over time, presumably in adaptation to more complex social behaviors to help deter megaraptoran predation, deinotheres saw an average decrease in comparison brain size, which means they don't need as many nutrients devoted to cognitive development and maintenance. Deinotheres increasingly specialized in taller and more nutritious flora. They were naturally bulk feeders due to their sheer size. Being leaner and less invested in large brains meant they could get by on a lot less in comparison. This also allowed them to invest in faster pregnancy and more rapid growth, while a contemporaneous grassland olifant of Kairul in the same size range took over 2 years of pregnancy and 15 to 20 years to reach adulthood. Modern deinothere pregnancy is just over a year, and they reach maturity by 8 to 10 years old. That makes their population much better able to recover from predatory pressures, a challenge that the much greater limiting factor in success among other Chimeran proboscideans. In most proboscideans, the tusks are incisors that grow from the upper jaw. As proboscideans became more derived, their tusks took deeper root and support increasing size, angling down as a result, which is why so many families independently lost their lower tusks to make space. Conversely, the tusks of deinotheres sprout from the lower jaw only. Studies of wear patterns on fossils show that they were regularly used, and since there was no distinction in size between sexes, it is presumed that the tusks were not related to display, with the leading theory being stripping bark. While less imposing than the great tusks of mammoths or Paleoloxodon, in a clash against theropods, their downward-facing tusks have proven to be superior weapons. While in the few recorded encounters more deinotheres were killed than brought down megaraptorans, their statistical rates of driving off and even killing megaraptorans was higher than those observed by mammoths and Paleoloxodon. Although deinotheres changed little in their roughly 25 million years on Earth, aside from a gradual increase in size, in Kaimere, their introduction to predators in their own size range prompted a number of quick adaptations, including thicker armor, faster growth, and the reinforcement and increased robusticity of the jaw. Their shoulders became taller to support this bulkier jaw and reinforce the neck for turning and jabbing. This is especially pronounced in males, where their ancestors appear to have demonstrated minimal sexual dimorphism from generally larger males. Chimeran deinotheres saw males become increasingly front-heavy to support this more combative use of their tusks. They can turn these tusks on each other, presumably to practice in the case of being attacked by megaraptorans, and it is common for males to be riddled with scars from duels with other bulls. Cows still have formidable armaments and will use them on other deinotheres, but aren't as invested in fighting with their tusks as they have more level backs, presumably to allow calves to more easily nurse than if they had the taller chests and shoulders of males. Cows aren't as efficient travelers as larger bulls, but since they usually have a calf or two in tow, they can't move as quickly or as often anyway. Although deinotheres have been known from fossils from the known world for centuries, along with references in the zoology wing of the Great Library, their discovery in Kairul by the Assembly was quite recent. They generally go by Koga or Rulga in the common tongue. Few specimens have been collected, and since they aren't common in coastal regions, eyewitness observation by Assembly naturalists is quite limited. From his review of the skeleton of a subadult bull slain by a bokodu, Dr. Kaplan concluded that it should still be categorized within the genus Deinotherium, as on a skeletal level it isn't enough of an outlier compared to Earth species to justify a new genus. Other naturalists argue that it should be, since much of his soft tissue features like thick skin and brown spotted hide appear to be adaptations to multi-ton predators they didn't face on Earth, but as the only points of reference are a comparison to their minimally derived skeletons, Dr. Kaplan's position is currently regarded as parsimonious. Wider surveys of the continent suggest that as many as 7 species of Deinotherium exist, although some of these may be subspecies or even populations with regional variation, so until more formal studies can be conducted, they are generally condensed into the same species, Deinotherium armatus. Unlike the proboscideans of the known world, Deinotherium is content to live among the giant theropod predators and giant titanosaurs. Unlike more derived proboscideans, they are content to make ample use of gymnosperms which dominate the Kairulan forests, although they tend to prefer regions with higher density of angiosperms to supplement. As titanosaurs are most comfortable in dry forests, and their digestion fertilizes and favors gymnosperms, this means that Deinotherium is most often found in wetter environments, although sometimes they only come there for supplementation, as they aren't exactly built for navigating wetlands and closed forests like the common olifant of the known world. The prairies can offer suitable habitat, but their reliance on browsing means that Deinotheres are generally restricted to the mosaic forests rather than truly open terrain. They may reproduce more frequently and grow faster than other proboscideans, but Deinotherium is still a fairly uncommon sight. The faster rate of reproduction of dinosaurs in the bountiful habitats of Kairul means that they have a significant competitive advantage that Deinotheres, while successful, it is not to such a degree that they can be described as a member of the dominant fauna. In Kairul, pachycephalosaurs, thescelosaurs, ceratopsids, and titanosaurs all dramatically outnumber the Koga. Even in this world ruled by dinosaurs, the endurance of the Koga is a testament to the versatility and fortitude of proboscideans. Although elephants of today may seem similar, the truth is that proboscideans have found success in a wide range of forms that until very recently in our own history. And the success of the Koga, when the clades we're familiar with failed to establish themselves in Kairul, is a reminder that evolution is not an inevitable march toward a supreme organism. Survival of the fittest does not mean physical or mental fitness, but fitting within the environment. While the context of modern Earth, high intelligence and slow yet steady growth is the best option for modern elephants. In Kaimere, the proboscideans, with by far the widest range and highest global population, took a very different path, proving once again that context is king. Thank you so much to Ian for sponsoring this series. Hope y'all have been enjoying it. Next week marks the final episode in the series on proboscideans, during which time we will meet the Korikoim, a sophont olifant from beyond the known world. Until then, stay fantastic, everyone. Cheers, folks!
Bye.